What's up, guys? We're taking a look at something a little bit different today. Still action figures, of course, but I had the folks over at Morphonauts reach out to me to see if I'd be interested in taking a look at their Wave 1 set of figures kind of leading up to the Wave 2 Kickstarter that is about to come out. So they sent me these three figures, and I believe this is the entirety of Wave 1, and Wave 2 is prepping to go live on Kickstarter very, very soon. I believe the 28th of July, and there's a bunch of other figures coming out and a whole new kind of scheme. So this is the original look, and then I can give you an idea of what Wave 2 is going to look like as well, kind of in comparison to these guys, because it seems like they're taking these figures and then building upon them. And these are definitely not your run-of-the-mill normal figures. They are a little bit more basic in terms of articulation than what I normally look at, but they have a really weird and just honestly kind of different gimmick. Everything's based off of magnets, so it's all held together by magnets, and the idea is that you can just take them apart, they all kind of just come apart, and then you can slap them together however you want. So if you see something cool on one figure that you want, you can throw it on another. And of course, there's a lot of custom potential here because you could just slap whatever paint that you want on these guys. So to start with, this is the packaging scheme, which is pretty clean and crisp. Honestly, you've got big windows for the figures, you've got the gimmick kind of call out up there, and then each figure actually gets a rather lengthy bio here too. So they've all got unique names, they've all got unique bios, and then there's actually a pretty long story write-up as well for the overall just mythos for this line. And then the back gives you an idea of what Wave 1 looks like, along with like the mix and match potential. And then this is a lot of the stuff that that looks like it's coming in Wave 2. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff on here. Again, definitely a little bit different from the norm for the channel, but let's do it. Let's pull these guys out and see what's going on. And here they are out of the package. So we've got our Morphonauts figures. And like I said, these guys are definitely a little bit different from what I would normally be covering. They are smaller form factor for figure, and they're also a little bit more on the basic side. But they do have one very interesting gimmick that definitely drew my attention because, I mean, it's just different. It's weird, and it's the big thing for these guys. So the entire figure is modular, really. So you can take it apart, you can swap pieces, and you can kind of make your own creation in some way. And if you're really interested in, you know, customizing, you can paint them up and change the entire way they look just by swapping these parts because they have magnets built into them. So we're going to use one as a guinea pig because they're all basically the same as far as how they move. Wave 1 is very similar from figure to figure, and then Wave 2 has some upgrades, and they sent kind of a fact sheet so I can explain what's going on. So we're going to take a look at the crab guy here. CRABINAUT is his name. We'll use him as our guinea pig and go through articulation, and then we'll kind of take a quick look at each of these figures. So like I said, these guys rely on magnets to connect, and what I mean by that is they literally use magnets. So they're connected with these really, really strong magnets. And they have actual ball joints inside there. So there's a ball peg inside the arm that will go into the magnet, and then it connects. So you've got a little bit of play. Some of the figures move a little better than others as far as the actual ball peg aspect of it. But from there, it allows it to rotate. And they're really, really strong. I mean, like, that's the magnet joint, and it's not coming apart. So that's pretty cool. They've got normal hinges at the elbow there too. So they do have traditional articulation in addition to the magnet gimmick. They've got ball pegs at the neck there, which also use the magnets. So those pop off so you can swap the heads, and they look down. I mean, they can tilt side to side a little bit. Really good on the upswing. The same for like the backpacks. They're connected via magnets. So you can swap those, and then these are also hinged like that, but also pop in with magnets. So if you want to give, you know, the big orange guy a crab claw, you can do that. They've got waist twists, and then they've got legs that go out. This is all, again, another magnet system, so they do pop out like that, which I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. Magnets are fun on their own, right? So you've got legs that go forward and backward. There's not any rocker or anything or a thigh swivel there, obviously. You've got single jointed knees, and then that's pretty much it. They do have some changes coming for Wave 2 with just, in general, more articulation. So they're going to be a little bit smaller form factor as far as the figure goes. Like this guy is about 5 inches tall, roughly, and the other figures are going to be closer to a more standard 4-inch scale, but they're going to have more articulation like rockers and hinged ribs wrists, things like that. More traditional stuff, just kind of more articulation. But as far as like kind of a basic figure goes, I mean, think of these like kind of a 5 POA figure almost, just with obviously more. It's touted as like 13 points of articulation, but it's all based on these the magnets. So the fact that they move well enough is pretty cool to me, but the fact that it relies on the magnets, I mean, just the idea that this is a thing and that you've got a magnet in here that's holding the whole figure together. So there's like a magnet inside the core and then it connects there and it holds really well. You know, I mean, that's the big thing. If they didn't work correctly, that would be a big problem. But yeah, the magnets hold quite nicely. Again, I mean, just holding it by that joint, it's not going anywhere. So I think that's a pretty cool little gimmick that works out surprisingly well for an action figure joint. Now, as far as the overall look and the style here, now these guys are obviously very, very different from one another. So we've got PYRONAUT, which is the big orange robot guy. We've got CRABINAUT, which is the big yellow crab guy. And RAZORNAUT, which is the sort of regular style dude almost that is covered in blades. So they are very different, but that's kind of the point of this line, I think, is that you can take so many different types of figures, especially once Wave 2 comes out, you know, after funding and everything. There'll be a lot of different style of figures that will then be able to be mashed into one thing. So as far as these guys go, you've got a bunch of disparate parts here that will be able to be taken apart. And I'm going to take, you know, just these two as an example, and we'll play around with them. But I like the overall idea here. I think the aesthetic, the style, and of course just the form factor. So they're about 5-inch figures, really. Here's an idea of what one looks like with, let's do, you know, like a 3 3/4 inch figure. So here's a reaction figure, and you can see they're about 5-ish inches. Of course, they've got, you know, backpacks and stuff that make them quite a bit bigger, but you've got an idea of what they look like next to another small scale figure. And I think the idea here is that, you know, you've got potential for like a kid to want to play around with these because they very much kind of look like your basic level action figure, but then with all the customization options, you might want to mess around with it as an adult if you're into kit bashing or just, you know, painting up figures and things like that, because there's not a lot of paint on these guys. It's kind of a what you see is what you get kind of thing. So you've got some paint and then a little bit of fine detail, but for the most part there's a lot of molded plastic, especially on the crab guy and then the robot dude here, but they do have some detail, so you can see it's not just one solid color. So as far as the actual gimmick goes, that's the big thing. That's what makes them really unique. They do have some wacky designs to begin with, but it's all about the customization. So I'm going to pull RAZORNAUT aside and let's take a look and see what we can do, and I'll show you exactly what happens when it comes to mixing and matching. So again, it's all about the magnets, and that's the whole deal here. So, you know, we'll take the crab dude here, CRABINAUT, and you can take his backpack apart, and I do like the little crab backpack. Again, I think that's cool. Again, you've got, you know, the various magnets on this guy. So he's got hinged magnets on here that allow him to move these crab arms, and you can take these apart. And then you've got just a backpack, and then you've got the arms. So on the orange guy, we'll use him as kind of a donor. Take his arms off, take a leg off here, and you can say, put the crab guy's backpack on, but give him the arm from the orange dude, put a crab leg back on there, take a leg off, and do something like that. And then you could also, if you wanted to, you could give him one of his guns, and throw it actually in the crab claw, because they can hold some of these weapons. Some of them actually have handles on them. This guy doesn't really have the best gripping hand for that, but you've got an idea of what you can start doing here. And, you know, someone that's going to be a little bit more imaginative and not exactly on the spot like I am right now will be able to figure out, well, these parts go better in this configuration, or you could just be a kid and take them all apart and throw them all together. So, you know, you can make yourself a robo crab guy, which I'm certainly on board for, and then, you know, you've got your other guy over here, so you can put a crab leg on PYRONAUT like that, and then give him a crab claw that hangs out of the back of him. Take his gun if you want and give it to him as an arm, and he's even more menacing and more robotic. So there is a lot of combination possibilities here. I mean, literally everything that has a magnet can be taken apart to be thrown into some other configuration. So I like the idea behind that, and of course, I mean, it adds a tremendous amount of play value, especially once more figures get kind of thrown into the mix. So yeah, I think these Morphonauts things are pretty cool. I do, of course, really rely on the magnet gimmick to kind of suck me in because, frankly, it's just different and it's weird, and that's really all it takes to kind of get me into something is just to be different enough that it's not anything I've ever messed with. Obviously, I'm familiar with magnets, but not in the sense of action figure joint work. So it's kind of a cool idea, and I think it works really well. Again, they hold together very, very nicely, as you saw when I was shaking one apart. They don't come apart unless you really want them to, and I like the idea of the customization aspect. I really like the yellow crab guy, and I like the orange robot dude. The RAZORNAUT guy is also pretty cool, but he's not a crab guy and he's not a robot, so he's just not as cool to me. But otherwise, I think these are pretty fun. It's definitely something that I could see kids really getting into, especially, you know, if you want to just destroy your figures but then be able to easily put them back together, or if you're into kit bashing stuff, these guys are kind of right up your alley as well. So yeah, I'll put a link down below to the Morphonauts page. Again, Kickstarter's going up really soon. Should be on July 28th, which could be now, in the future, or in the past, depending on when you are watching it. So that's it, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.